The rain hit my face like tiny needles as I stood on my son's porch, holding his birthday cake. Chocolate with vanilla frosting, the same recipe I'd made every year since he turned 5. My finger hovered over the doorbell when the intercom crackled to life. "I told you to stay out of my life, Mom." Evan's voice cut through the storm. Behind him, I heard laughter, sharp and mocking, a woman's voice. "She actually came?" Tessa. The intercom clicked off before I could respond. Rain soaked through the plastic wrap, melting the frosting I'd spent 3 hours perfecting. My hands trembled as I set the cake gently on the welcome mat. "Happy birthday, baby," I whispered to the closed door. Thunder rolled overhead as I walked back to my car, my heart cracking with each step. I didn't know then that this moment would change everything, that the son who told me to disappear would soon be begging me to save him. My name is Marlene Quinn, and I raised my son alone. Before we go further, I need you to understand something. I wasn't always this strong. 3 years ago, I was broken, confused, wondering where I went wrong. But we'll get to that. First, you need to know who I was before everything fell apart. I worked double shifts at Morrison General Hospital as a nurse for 23 years. Every penny went to Evan. I gave up my scholarship to nursing school administration when I got pregnant at 19. His father left before Evan took his first breath. I never dated again. Evan was my world, my purpose, my reason for waking up every morning. I sacrificed everything so he could have opportunities I never had. College, internships, a car when he graduated. I thought I was building his future. I didn't realize I was teaching him I was disposable. Evan brought Tessa home on a Tuesday evening in March, 2 years before the birthday that shattered me. She stood in my doorway wearing designer jeans and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Mrs. Quinn, Evan has told me so much about you." Her handshake was cold, despite the warmth in her voice. We sat for dinner, pot roast I'd made that morning before my shift. Tessa picked at her food, complimenting everything while eating nothing. "This is so homey," she said, and somehow it sounded like an insult. Her hand stayed on Evan's arm all evening, possessive, marking territory. When I asked about her family, her eyes finally met mine. "My parents taught me independence, Mrs. Quinn. They didn't believe in coddling." The word hung in the air like an accusation. Evan looked uncomfortable, but said nothing. That night, washing dishes alone, I knew something had shifted. The changes started small, easy to dismiss as my imagination. Evan stopped calling every Sunday. When I called him, Tessa answered. "Oh, he's in the shower, Mrs. Quinn. I'll have him call you back." He never did. Family dinners became monthly, then quarterly. Tessa always had an excuse why they couldn't make it. "Work emergency. Sorry, Mom." But his Instagram showed them at brunches and concerts, smiling like they had all the time in the world. One evening, I called from the hospital parking lot after a difficult shift. I just needed to hear my son's voice. Tessa answered again. In the background, I heard her talking to someone else, not realizing I could hear. It's his mom again. God, she's so pathetic. Can you believe she calls 3 times a week? I sat in my car until my hands stopped shaking. That was the first night I cried myself to sleep in years. I found out about Evan's wedding from a Facebook post. My coworker showed me during our lunch break, excited because she'd seen the announcement trending. There was Evan, down on one knee beside a fountain, Tessa's hand over her mouth in perfect surprise. The caption read, "She said yes to forever." 200 comments of congratulations. My hands went numb. No phone call, no visit, no invitation. I scrolled through her profile until I found the wedding details, posted publicly for everyone except me. St. Augustine Church, the same place where I'd taken Evan every Easter as a child. I bought a simple blue dress and drove there anyway, arriving as guests were filing in. I sat in the back pew, quiet as a ghost. When Tessa walked down the aisle, her eyes swept the crowd and landed on me. She leaned toward Evan, whispered something. 2 ushers appeared beside me. "Ma'am, this is a private ceremony." They escorted me out before I could see my son say his vows. The wedding photos appeared online 3 days later. Every image was perfect. Tessa in her flowing gown, Evan in his tailored suit, both families beaming. Except mine. I wasn't cropped out because I was never in the frame. I searched every album, every tagged photo. Nothing. It was as if I didn't exist. I created a throwaway account and commented on their official wedding post. "You both look beautiful. Wishing you every happiness. Love, Mom." I checked an hour later. My comment was gone. Deleted. Erased like I'd never written it. I tried again. Blocked. The screen showed a message I'll never forget. "You cannot interact with this account." That was when I understood. Tessa hadn't just taken my son. She'd digitally erased 29 years of motherhood. I closed my laptop and stared at the wall until sunrise, too empty to even cry. My mother passed away 4 months after the wedding. She left me a small rental property in Belmont and $12,000 in savings. It wasn't much, but it was security I'd never had. Evan appeared at my door the day after the funeral, the first time I'd seen him since the wedding. "Mom, I'm so sorry about Grandma." He hugged me, and for a moment, I had my son back. We sat at my kitchen table drinking coffee like old times. Then he said it. "Tessa and I have been talking. We could help you manage Grandma's property. You know, take that burden off your shoulders." His eyes were earnest, caring. I was so desperate for his presence that I agreed. I signed the papers he brought, transferring management authority. 2 weeks later, I got a call from a realtor. "Ms. Quinn, congratulations on your sale." My blood went cold. "What sale?" The property was gone, sold. $12,000 plus the equity, approximately $48,000 total, deposited into an account I didn't have access to. When I called Evan, his voice was casual. "We needed it for our down payment, Mom. You understand." I collapsed at work 3 weeks later. One moment I was checking a patient's vitals. The next I was on the floor, my supervisor's face hovering above me. The ambulance ride was a blur. At the hospital, they said it was exhaustion, stress, dangerously high blood pressure. They kept me overnight for observation. My supervisor promised to call my emergency contact, Evan. I waited all evening, watching the door every time it opened. Nurses came and went. Doctors checked my charts. The woman in the bed next to me had 4 visitors. Mine stayed empty. The next morning, my supervisor visited during her break. Her face told me everything. "I called your son, Marlene. He said he couldn't make it, that he was busy." She looked uncomfortable. "He asked me to tell you he hopes you feel better." That afternoon, lying in that hospital bed, I realized I'd been alone for a long time. I just hadn't accepted it yet. Let me take you back to that birthday one more time. because there's more you need to see. The rain was already falling when I left my apartment that evening, but I didn't care. I'd spent all day baking, decorating, pouring love into buttercream flowers because that's what mothers do, even mothers who've been erased. I practiced what I'd say during the drive. Happy birthday, sweetheart. I know things have been difficult, but I love you. I'll always love you. Simple, non-confrontational. When I reached his door, I could hear music inside, laughter, the clink of glasses. A party. He was celebrating, just not with me. My fingers shook as I pressed the intercom button. Then came his voice, cold and final. I told you to stay out of my life, Mom. Tessa's mocking laughter cut deeper than any knife. I placed the cake down like an offering at an altar to a God who'd stopped listening. My lips moved in that whispered blessing. Then I walked away, not knowing it would be 3 years before I saw him again. I disappeared 6 weeks after that birthday. No dramatic exit, no announcements. I just stopped. Stopped calling, stopped reaching out, stopped checking his social media from fake accounts. I requested a transfer to Riverside Community Hospital, 3 hours north. New city, new apartment, new beginning. My coworkers there knew nothing about my past. To them, I was just Marlene, the kind nurse who always volunteered for extra shifts and brought homemade cookies to staff meetings. I started attending a support group at the local community center for parents dealing with estrangement. The first time I said the words, "My son doesn't speak to me," out loud, I cried for 20 minutes. But something shifted that day. I wasn't alone. There were 12 other parents in that room, each carrying similar wounds. We became friends. They invited me to book clubs, hiking groups, pottery classes. Slowly, week by week, I started remembering who Marlene was before she became just Evan's mother. The woman who loved painting, who used to write poetry, who dreamed of traveling to Ireland someday. 3 years passed like pages turning in a book I was finally ready to read. I lost weight, not from stress, but from hiking every weekend with my new friends. I took an online course in counseling and started volunteering at the community center, mentoring young single mothers. They called me their second mom, and this time it felt like honor, not burden. I started writing a blog about resilience, rebuilding, finding yourself after loss. Nothing identifying, just stories and reflections. One post went viral. I'd titled it, "The Pain of Loving Someone Who No Longer Sees You." It wasn't about Evan specifically, but every word carried him between the lines. Within a week, it had been shared 50,000 times. My inbox flooded with messages from parents, siblings, friends, all saying, "This is my story too." A local magazine asked to interview me. Television producers reached out. I declined them all. This wasn't about fame. It was about healing. About showing others they could survive this kind of heartbreak and come out stronger. The message request appeared on a Tuesday morning while I was having coffee on my balcony. Facebook Messenger, from an account I'd blocked 3 years ago. My hand froze halfway to my cup. The preview showed just 2 words. "Mom, please." I stared at that notification for 10 minutes, my heart hammering. Part of me wanted to delete it immediately, protect the peace I'd built. Another part, the part that still remembered rocking a feverish toddler at 3 a.m, needed to know what had happened. I didn't open it that day, or the next. I carried my phone like it was radioactive, checking compulsively to see if the message was still there, if maybe I'd imagined it. On Thursday, I finally clicked. The message was short, desperate. Mom, can we talk? Please. I know I don't deserve it, but I need help. No explanation, no context, just need. My therapist's voice echoed in my head. You don't owe anyone access to your healing, Marlene, not even him. But I found myself typing anyway. I'll think about it. The call came at 6 a.m, exactly 1 week later. His name on my screen felt foreign, like reading a word in a language I used to speak fluently, but had forgotten. I almost let it go to voicemail. On the 4th ring, I answered. Evan? His voice broke immediately. Mom. Oh God, Mom, please. I need help. Tessa, everything's gone. The house, the money, my job. She framed me for fraud, Mom. The police are involved. I don't know what to do. I don't have anyone else. He was crying, really crying, in a way I hadn't heard since he was 8 and broke his arm falling from a tree. Evan, slow down. What happened? Static crackled through the line. I can't explain on the phone. Can you come? Please? I know I have no right to ask, but please. The line went dead before I could respond. I sat in bed, watching the sunrise paint my walls gold, and felt my carefully constructed peace crumble. Against every logical instinct, against my therapist's advice, against the voice screaming this was a trap, I packed a bag. The house stood at the end of a curved driveway, modern and massive, exactly the kind of place I'd imagined when he took my mother's money. But something was wrong. The lawn was overgrown. Windows were dark. A foreclosure notice hung on the door. I knocked 3 times before Evan opened it. I barely recognized him. My son, who'd always been meticulous about his appearance, stood in wrinkled clothes, unshaven, eyes hollow with exhaustion. Mom. His voice cracked. The interior was worse. Furniture was gone except for 1 chair. Boxes were stacked haphazardly. The walls had dark rectangles where art had hung. Evan sat on the floor in what used to be a living room, head in his hands. She took everything. His words came out flat, defeated. My bank accounts, the car, my reputation. She was embezzling from my company for 2 years, using my credentials, my signatures. When they discovered it, all evidence pointed to me. He looked up, tears streaming. I'm facing federal charges, Mom. I could go to prison. This was my son, broken in ways I'd never imagined possible. The door opened behind me. I turned, and there she stood, Tessa. But this version was stripped of the sweet pretense I'd seen years ago. Her eyes were cold, calculating. Well, well, the mother hen returns. She stepped inside like she still owned the place. I'm surprised you had the nerve to show your face, Marlene. Her tone was poison coated in honey. I stood slowly, facing her. 3 years ago, I would have shrunk back, apologized for existing. But I wasn't that woman anymore. I'm here for my son. My voice was steady, calm. You should leave. Tessa laughed, sharp and brittle. Your son? The one you suffocated for 30 years? The one who finally had to cut you off just to breathe? She took a step closer. I did him a favor. I freed him from your pathetic, clingy desperation. I didn't blink. You stole from him. framed him for crimes you committed. That's not freedom, Tessa. That's destruction. Her smile faltered for just a second, and I saw it. Fear. She hadn't expected this version of me. After Tessa left, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the frame, Evan finally spoke. She's been planning this for months, maybe longer. He pulled out his laptop, one of the few things remaining. I found these files hidden in our shares cloud. Forged documents, fake email chains, altered bank statements. She created an entire false trail, making it look like I authorized the transfers. I sat beside him, reading through page after page of meticulous fraud. Tessa had been brilliant in her cruelty. She'd used Evan's access codes, his digital signature, his company email. She'd slowly siphoned nearly $200,000 into offshore accounts under his name. "Why didn't you notice?" I asked gently. He laughed bitterly. "Because I trusted her. Because she handled our finances. Because I was an idiot." He turned to me, eyes red. "I'm so sorry, Mom. For everything. For the wedding, for taking Grandma's money, for telling you to stay away. You were right about her from the beginning. I just couldn't see it." His apology hung in the air between us, heavy with years of pain. That evening, I made a call. "Hello, this is Marlene Quinn. Is Attorney Brennan available?" I'd met Vanessa Brennan at the community center 2 years ago. She volunteered her legal services for domestic abuse cases. We'd become friends over shared lunches and conversations about justice. "Marlene, it's been too long. What can I do for you?" I explained the situation, Evan listening quietly beside me. Vanessa was silent for a long moment after I finished. "This is complex, but it's not hopeless. If we can prove the forgeries, if we can establish a timeline showing Tessa had access and motive, we might be able to shift the investigation." She paused. "But Marlene, I need to ask, after everything your son put you through, why are you helping him?" I looked at Evan, remembering the boy who used to bring me dandelions from the yard, calling them flowers. Because he's still my son. And because everyone deserves a chance at redemption. Vanessa agreed to take the case. We had work to do. The investigation moved faster than I expected. Vanessa was relentless, filing motions, subpoenaing records, hiring a forensic accountant who specialized in fraud cases. Within 3 weeks, they'd established that Tessa had accessed Evan's accounts from multiple IP addresses, including her parents' home in Vermont. The forged signatures, when analyzed by a handwriting expert, showed clear differences from Evan's actual signature. Most damning was the offshore account. It had been opened using a fake passport in Evan's name, but security footage from the bank showed Tessa making the transaction. The police came to arrest her on a Wednesday morning. I wasn't there, but Evan called me immediately after. "They have her, Mom. They're charging her with fraud, identity theft, embezzlement. The prosecutor said I'm being cleared." His voice broke with relief. That evening, the local news ran the story. Local woman arrested in elaborate fraud scheme. Tessa's perfect face filled the screen, now twisted in anger, as officers led her away in handcuffs. The truth was finally visible. 3 days after Tessa's arrest, Evan posted a video. He didn't tell me he was doing it. I found out when my phone started buzzing with messages from friends. "Marlene, have you seen this?" I opened the link. There was my son, sitting in the empty house, eyes raw from crying. I need to say something I should have said years ago. To my mother, Marlene Quinn, the woman who gave me everything and asked for nothing in return. The woman I hurt more deeply than anyone should ever hurt the person who loves them most. His voice cracked. I was cruel. I was ungrateful. I chose someone who manipulated me over the one person who never would. Mom, I'm sorry. I know those words aren't enough. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. But I need you to know that I see it now. I see everything you sacrificed, everything you gave, everything I threw away. He wiped his eyes. If you're watching this, Mom, I love you. I'm sorry I forgot how to show it. The video went viral within hours. Millions of views, thousands of comments. But all I cared about was the last frame, where my son whispered, "Please come back." When Evan asked to move in with me, I said no. We were sitting in my small apartment, the one I'd built my new life in, and his face fell like I'd struck him. Mom, I have nowhere else to go. The house is being foreclosed. I have no money until the legal mess is sorted out. I took his hand gently. Evan, I love you. I will always love you. But you need to rebuild your life on your own foundation, not on mine. Tears filled his eyes. You're abandoning me, just like I abandoned you. The accusation stung, but I held firm. I'm not abandoning you. I'm teaching you what I should have taught you years ago. That love doesn't mean carrying someone who can walk on their own. I helped him find a small room in a boarding house, gave him enough money for a month's rent and food. After this, you're on your own. Get a job, any job. Build something that's yours. He looked at me with something I hadn't seen before. Respect. Okay, Mom, I'll try. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done, but it was right. 6 months passed. I didn't hear from Evan often, just occasional texts letting me know he was alive, working. Got a job at a grocery store. It's humbling. Started seeing a therapist. You were right. I need this. Volunteering at the community center, helping kids with homework. It feels good. Each message was short, but I could feel him changing between the lines. Then one Saturday, he showed up at the center while I was running my mentorship group. He stood at the back of the room, listening as I talked to 6 young single mothers about resilience. After the session, he approached me. Mom, I wondered if you'd let me volunteer here too. I want to help. I studied his face. The hollow desperation was gone, replaced by something quieter, humility, purpose. Talk to the coordinator, I said. If they approve you, then yes. He smiled, really smiled, for the first time in years. Thank you, Mom, for not giving up on me, even when I gave up on you. I hugged him then, brief but real. That's what mothers do. We hold the door open, but you have to choose to walk through it. My revenge, if you can call it that, wasn't loud or dramatic. It was simply this: living well. 3 years after that rain-soaked birthday, I had a life I'd built entirely for myself, a community that valued me, work that fulfilled me, friends who called just to hear my voice, peace that didn't depend on anyone else's approval. I walked through town and people greeted me by name. "Morning, Marlene," from the coffee shop owner. "See you at book club," from my neighbor. "Thank you again for helping my daughter," from a mother whose teenager I'd mentored through a crisis. Every smile, every connection, every moment of genuine happiness was proof that I'd survived, that I'd rebuilt, that being erased didn't mean I disappeared. I'd simply learned to exist in a way that didn't require someone else's permission. And that freedom, that peace, was sweeter than any dramatic confrontation could ever be. I won by refusing to stay broken, by showing that a mother's worth isn't measured by her child's love, but by her own strength to stand when that love is withdrawn. Tessa tried one last manipulation from jail. Somehow she'd gotten hold of my old address, my phone number, my email. Messages appeared. "You turned my husband against me. You're poisoning everyone against me. I'll make sure the world knows what kind of mother abandons their child." Then came the public attack. She convinced a friend to post my story online, a long fictional account of an overbearing mother who'd driven her son away through manipulation and control. The post included photos she must have saved, twisted with cruel captions. For 48 hours, it spread across social media. I woke to strangers calling me toxic, narcissistic, abusive. But something remarkable happened. The people who actually knew me fought back. My community center friends, the mothers I'd mentored, Evan himself. They flooded the comments with truth, photos of me volunteering, testimonials about my character. Evan posted the police reports showing Tessa's fraud. Within 3 days, the narrative flipped completely. Tessa's friend deleted the post. The truth drowned out her lies. Her last weapon had shattered against the life I'd built. Evan came to my apartment on a Sunday evening, unannounced. I opened the door to find him holding a small, wrapped box. "Can I come in?" We sat at my kitchen table, the same table where years ago I'd signed away my mother's property, trusting him. Now we sat as different people, changed by pain and time. "I've been in therapy for 8 months now," he started, "working through why I let Tessa isolate me from you, why I was so cruel." He pushed the box toward me. Inside was a simple bracelet with a single charm, a heart with Mom engraved on it. "This doesn't fix anything," he said, "but I need you to know. What Tessa stole from me wasn't money or a house. It was you. She took my mother, and I let her." Tears streamed down his face. "I see it now. Every birthday you showed up for, every sacrifice you made, every time you loved me even when I made it impossible. I see you, Mom. Finally, I really see you." I held his hand across the table. "Then don't waste what you found. We start from here, honestly, with boundaries, with respect. Can you do that?" He nodded. "I can try." And somehow, that was enough. The morning sun filtered through my kitchen window, catching the dust motes in golden light. I was tending my small herb garden on the windowsill when the doorbell rang. Evan stood there, and he wasn't alone. In his arms was a tiny bundle wrapped in yellow. "Mom, I want you to meet someone." My breath caught. "This is Hope." He placed his daughter gently in my arms. She was perfect. Tiny fingers, closed eyes, that new baby smell that brings back every memory of motherhood. "Hope," I whispered. "After everything we've been through, it felt right," Evan said softly. "A new beginning." I looked at this child, born from the ashes of so much pain, and felt something shift in my chest. The curse of our broken years, finally lifting. "She's beautiful." We sat together on my porch, 3 generations in the gentle morning light. Evan had asked for my forgiveness. I'd given it, carefully, with boundaries intact. But this, holding Hope, watching my son hold her with such tenderness. This was redemption, not revenge. You know what I learned, Evan? I said quietly. Revenge isn't about making someone hurt. It's about showing them you survived, that you're free, that they couldn't break you. He leaned his head on my shoulder, just like when he was small. Thank you for being stronger than I was, Mom, for holding the door open when I finally came home. I kissed Hope's tiny forehead and smiled. That's what mothers do. We hold doors open, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. The sun climbed higher, and somewhere in that light, all our broken pieces began, finally, to mend.